Good evening to those who've joined us for the 16 plus scholarship information, the academic scholarship information. We are joined this evening by Mr. David Reid, who's the head of sixth form, who will be able to explain a little bit more about the academic sixth form scholarship applications of the process and the assessments. So, Mr. Reid, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you very, very much. So the process for the sixth form scholarships is there is a form on the college website, an application form, and you complete that form and include your personal statement and send that into admissions. And all the information about what should go in the personal statement and the deadlines are within that form on the college website. We then receive those forms and the personal statements, and myself, the IB coordinator and the deputy head curricula, we look at those forms and those that we then choose to call forward to interview or for the next process, we will ask you to complete something called a GL assessment Cat 4. Okay, Cat 4 assessment, which is very similar to many sort of assessments that people of my age or younger will have done at some point in their life, where it looks at your quantitative ability, your non-verbal reasoning, your spatial awareness. Then these scores I get, and then Mrs. Akehurst, the IB coordinator, and myself will shortlist down for the people willing to ask along to the interview day. The interview day consists of 2 written papers. The first one is a 45-minute general paper written by our Director of Studies, and we will send out in advance to you those copies of the previous year's papers. So you get a sense of what those papers are, and you answer an essay question, and our Director of Studies, Mr. Gorsey, will mark that paper. The second paper is an exam paper on a subject chosen by you, and it should be one of the subjects that you plan to study in your A-level or your higher level within your IB program. So it should be probably your strongest and favorite subject, because not only will you sit a 1-hour paper on that, it will be the basis of one of your 2 interviews. So you have 2 papers and 2 interviews, and the main academic interview will be led by the head of department of your chosen subject. So you'll pick a subject, and the head of department will chair that interview, but sat along beside them will be Mrs. Akehurst, the IB coordinator, and Mr. Holroyd, the deputy head curricula. And the 3 of them will form the interview panel and ask you questions based on your personal statement. On the day itself, actually, I'm just someone in the background making sure people get to the right place at the right time, but I will then collate the results from all the different interviews for our feedback. The final part of it then is the second interview, and that is with the headmaster, and he again will be speaking to each candidate to find out more about them, and will have received a personal statement as well. Okay, so that's the process of the day. I hope it sort of makes sense. The questions are quite challenging. I mean, when we speak to students about it in the past, who've then gone on to, say, Oxford and Cambridge, they've said that the sixth form scholarship process was probably the closest thing to actually what happened then at the Oxbridge interviews, with a written paper and the sort of questioning about your interests and your loves, and really trying to find the depth of love of the subject you have chosen. Thank you. Are there any questions for me?
Yes, we do. So I have a question, Mr. Reid, which is, am I at a disadvantage if I'm not a British student when applying for an academic scholarship?
I'd say not at all. I mean, because it's all about your love of say mathematics or physics, and it's not constrained to the sort of GCSE curriculum. So our heads of departments will totally understand. And you could choose something like economics if that's what fascinates you, which none of our students will have studied, but the head of department for economics will understand that, and will be looking for your interest in economics and your understanding of economic ideas. So it should make absolutely no difference where in the world you come from and what educational system you currently study under.
Okay, thank you. And I think you touched on it during your presentation, but we've had a question about what advice would you give to the candidates coming for interviews?
I think the most important thing is to pick a subject that you're really interested and passionate about. So that'd be my first bit of advice. And this particularly probably is true for students who aren't English. We occasionally get a student, say, who's French or German, who will think, well, actually, my French or German is really good because that's my mother tongue. I'll pick that. And then they get slightly found out at interview that they actually don't have a love of French literature or German literature. And when they get asked penetrating questions about why they've chosen French or German, there's no depth to it. Whereas, of course, if their love is French literature, then it's a perfect choice to pick. Or if their love is German literature, it's a perfect choice. But you should be picking a subject that you feel most passionate about. And in a weird sort of way, if you're thinking about picking a university degree subject, I know it's quite a long time before that, but it's the same process. It should be your favorite subject. Then the interview is all about being yourself. So once you're in the interview, the interview is not trying to find you out. Again, in a very similar way to an Oxford interview, it's not about trying to find you out. It's trying to find out how you work. Can you work on hints? Can you expand on what's in your personal statement? We're really just trying to, it's meant to be a warm and supportive conversation. So when I talked about being challenging before, the challenge is students really start to think deeply about what they understand. And I've attended philosophy interviews and I know very little about philosophy, but the conversations are very deep and very interesting. And so it's important students really pick a subject that they are interested in. And when they write their things on their personal statement about their loves and interests, but it actually is a love and interest, and they haven't just made it up for the personal statement, because it will get found out.
Thank you. Yes, some very good advice there. We have another question, which is that if English is your second language, will that be a disadvantage when it comes to the written papers?
No, I suppose it depends what subject you pick as your specialist subject. But it shouldn't do. I mean, I'm a mathematics teacher, and mathematics is mathematics. For the other papers, no, that would be taken into account. So the person marking the paper would be aware from your personal statement, because the head of the department would also see your personal statement. They would be aware of your background, if English is not your first language, what your first language is. And again, on your general paper, whilst that is marked against a set standard, your mark and would be taking into account your background, and it would be clear to Mr. Gorsey, our Director of Studies, if English was not, say, your first language. So in no way should it be seen as an impediment. Sorry.
Thank you. And we have a question which is asking, would I have any commitments as a scholar, and how much time would that add to my normal school week?
Gosh, what is a commitment? Well, most of our students are highly committed anyway. So the ones who are academically ambitious will be attending all the different sort of co-curricular and super-curricular opportunities that there are, such as Wheeler Bennett Society, such as the Aston Society for Scientists, MedSoc. So there are so many different societies, the Robotics Club, the Coding Club, there's the Kinetic Scheme. There are so many different opportunities for our students that it would be unusual for a student not to be hugely committed, but yes, they will be busy, but all our students are busy. You know, they're trying to make most of the opportunities that they have available to them.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely, we are very busy. It's a very busy school life that we have here. We don't have any more questions for you at the moment, Mr. Reid, but I know that you are always open and available for families to contact with questions through the admissions office. And so the admissions team would be very happy for any of the participants today, if they had any additional questions or any individual questions related to possible subject choices when it comes to the academic assessments. We'd be very happy to advise and to consult with Mr. Reid. In the meantime, I'd like to thank Mr. Reid for his help this evening, and also to thank you for joining us from home. And if you have any queries at all, please don't hesitate to contact the admissions team or any of the staff here at Malvern. But thank you very much, and I hope that you all have a very lovely evening.
Thank you.